Elaine Starling. I'm the host of Why 5% Succeed. This is the show where we learn from outstanding small business owners and entrepreneurs about the tips, the tools, techniques, and tactics that they're using in their business to create huge value for their clients. Because you know what? When you show your clients the money, that's when you start making the money. And these are incredibly talented people that you get to learn from every single week. Now, I want to introduce you to the folks that are here today. First and foremost, the lovely lady down in the film strip, Debbie, could you wave your hand? She's muted out at the moment. Debbie is my very talented Hangout manager. She is very kindly watching all of your comments, all of your questions, and making sure that Monica and I see the comments and questions that you have, because we want to make sure that your issues get answered along with all the questions that I'm bringing up. So Debbie will be taking on that role. But another fabulous person that we've got on the show today is Monica Smiley. I'm so excited to have Monica here today because she is the CEO and founder of Enterprising Women. This is an incredible organization that's worldwide. And wait till you hear about her magazines, too. I'm not going to steal her thunder. I just want to welcome Monica to the show today. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you so much, Elaine. It's great to be with you.
Well, I'm going to jump right in, and I'm trying something new to me today. I'm trying these overlays, so I've got to make sure I move to the right spot. We start with the rewarding experience, because there's something about creating an enriching and rewarding experience that makes people want to interact with you. And I always consider, what is the problem that's being solved? Women in particular are super busy. We've got so many obligations, so many responsibilities. Our time is incredibly valuable. So for Monica to be able to amass a worldwide audience of hundreds of thousands of these incredibly busy, savvy, capable women, that's really saying something. Monica, could you tell us a little bit about your rewarding experience with Enterprising Women?
Absolutely, I would love to do that. So I guess first of all, what I'd like to share is the fact that, many years ago, I learned, and I think a lot of us have learned this valuable lesson, that building a business is all about building relationships, right? It's those very important connections that we make. And for a business owner who's sitting alone in her office, working in a vacuum, that's a problem. You need to be connected. So I feel like the biggest problem that Enterprising Women solves for our readers and for women entrepreneurs who are a part of our community is to really make them feel that they're part of something bigger than themselves. They're part of a very large and dynamic community of women entrepreneurs. So connecting them and making them feel like they can access the best ideas that are out there. They can share the best practices from outstanding women entrepreneurs from throughout the U.S. and throughout the world is just a huge benefit to them. So I think probably solving that key problem is just that feeling of, I'm not out here alone. I'm part of something bigger. There are other people who are facing the same kinds of business challenges, and let me access something that will really help me learn from what those women have accomplished.
That's a good point. I think discovering hot new tools and tips really makes a big difference. We talked about how cool Hangouts are, and you weren't familiar with Google Hangouts when I first introduced them to you.
No, I wasn't, and I'm thrilled to try this today because I think that it has fabulous applications for us in our business. We have a very large and vibrant advisory board for the magazine, and I can see it as a great way to connect those women and certainly to do some other things like we're doing today that will enable us to get the message out to even more women. I love the idea of it, Elaine.
That's great. So how are you tracking some of the tangible results that your readers are getting? Because also I want you to explain a little bit about the Connector and Enterprising Women magazine.
Sure. Well, we are very fortunate that we hear from so many women who are out there. We literally get hundreds of emails a day through our social media connections, through the magazine itself, and women who want to engage with us, who want us to share their story. I'm just amazed at the connections that we're able to make through the various vehicles that we have. So let me kind of walk you through what it is that we do. First of all, I give you just a little bit of history on the magazine, if I may. Going back to the early 1980s, I actually started a publishing company with my husband, John Dancer. And so I've been a business owner for quite a number of years myself, and being able to relate as a small business owner with the kinds of day-to-day challenges that we all have really helped when it came time to look at starting a publication for women entrepreneurs. So in the late 1990s, we really started to look at the universe for women entrepreneurs and thought about the fact that there just didn't seem to be anything out there to help women connect with one another, and anything that was really written exclusively for women entrepreneurs. We saw a lot of mainstream business publications out there, of course, and many of them are still there. But when we looked at the staff boxes and we looked at the content of those magazines, they just didn't speak to most women. Most of the profiles were about men who own businesses, and that's great, but women's voices really were not being heard. So the entire concept in the beginning was with Enterprising Women was, let's make this about connecting women. Let's make 90% of the authors, and in some issues it's 100% of the authors, women entrepreneurs who are sharing their best ideas. And we decided to do that initially with the print publication. So back in 2000, when I started the magazine, we had just the print edition. And then in later years, of course, as it became more common to produce digital magazines, we created the digital edition of Enterprising Women. In 2008, Elaine, we really looked at the fact that we were starting to attend more and more events around the world for women entrepreneurs. And every time I did that, I would meet women who would tell me that there was nothing for women entrepreneurs in their country, and they would just kill to have an Enterprising Women type of publication for their country. And so we decided that we just absolutely had to magazine. And that shift really came in 2008. Once we did that and we started to make it easy for them to find us, within about 6 months we grew our readership to about 50 countries. And then we continued to really reach out to partners in many of those other countries, women's organizations, trying to reach their audiences, their memberships. And now we're at a point where we've got about 1 million women entrepreneurs reading the magazine in 185 countries. So the print magazine is still out there. I've come from a print background and will probably always have a print magazine. But the print magazine has a stronger U.S. audience. It just doesn't make sense for women around the world to wait to get a print publication in the mail when they can certainly access the information easily online. So then this last year we decided, really as a way to supplement the print publication, that we would add an e-zine, an online magazine that was set up in a blogging format that would make it really easy for our readers to get regular updates from us, from authors who are writing on the same kind of topics that we cover in the print magazine, but we would be able to do that in a more timely way, and to also add news items and information from our partner organizations that we work with. And again, make it easy for a reader to be able to comment and become more engaged in that information. So those are the two primary vehicles that we have for reaching our audience now, the print and digital magazine, and then the online publication, which is called the Connector. There's a third way that we engage with our readers and with the Enterprising Women community, and I know you're familiar with this, Elaine. It's through the annual Enterprising Women of the Year event. So a quick history on that. We're coming up on our 13th anniversary of the Enterprising Women of the Year Awards. This grew out of, back 13 years ago, I wanted to find a way to select a group of outstanding women entrepreneurs and showcase them in the magazine. We weren't going to do an event, and the funny story with this is that we did a cover story that year on women in the food industry. And we happened to put a woman named Rona Silver on the front cover of that issue, who owned the largest women-owned catering company in the country. She was in the Long Island area of New York. And she came back to me after we produced that issue, and she said, Monica, if you ever decide that you'd like to do an event for women, I'd love to be involved. I'll help you with it. Well, I said, we're doing this issue showcasing outstanding women. I'd love to actually hand them something and see them face to face. So that'd be great. Let's work together on this. So for the first 2 years that we produced the Enterprising Women event, it was in New York as a freestanding reception, rather small, and we had 3 winners of the award. Well, flash forward now 13 years later, this past year we recognized 70 women entrepreneurs from not only the United States, but from 17 other countries around the world. Average revenues of the women winning were about 20 million, although the awards are open to women of all revenue categories, so they're classified so that you're competing with women with similar sized businesses of up to $1 million in revenues, 1 to 5 million, 5 to 10 million, 10 to 25 million, and over 25 million. Now, our top revenue winner last year was Cindy Monroe, who is coincidentally on the cover of the next issue of Enterprising Women. In 10 years, she's grown a business from 0 revenues in the basement of her home to 760 million in annual revenues with a company called 31 Gifts. It's an amazing story and an amazing journey. She has 2,000 employees in Columbus, Ohio, and she's the kind of woman who, just relates very well to any woman business owner because she really did start from scratch. She started with a business in her basement that she grew organically and just has employed some excellent business tips and skills through the years to be able to really build this company into a dynamic enterprise. So those are the kind of women who end up winning the award, who end up coming to the Enterprising Women of the Year event. They become engaged in our community. Cindy came onto the Enterprising Women Advisory Board a few months after she won the award. She's now writing and very actively engaged with us. So she's an example of the kind of woman who, everybody can learn from. She's just really has such an interesting story and such a terrific model of success.
That's great. One of the things that I want to ask you a little bit more about, because you've been in this space for a while and you've seen the trends and the transitions over time. Being a woman entrepreneur back in the 80s is a little different than being a woman entrepreneur right now. What do you see are some of the biggest changes and some of the biggest challenges facing women who are running their own businesses right now?
Well, I think the environment is very different for women entrepreneurs now, as I think we all know from the 80s, of course. We've seen such dramatic changes. We did some writing around the issue of HR 5050, which was the legislation that really opened up opportunities for women. Prior to that legislation, believe it or not, and those women who've been in business a long time will remember this, a woman couldn't get a loan in her own name. And we actually had stories of women who applied for loans, and in some cases they were divorced and they had to have a 17 or 18-year-old son sign on the loan with them because they didn't have a husband. So, we all remember those horror stories from years ago. Thankfully, those days are gone. We saw really explosive growth in women's entrepreneurship in the mid-1990s, and I think that's the period of time when the Center for Women's Business Research was doing a lot of groundbreaking research on women's business ownership. They were really helping put women on the map to demonstrate that women didn't just own small, craft-based businesses, for example. They were really running very substantial businesses, and they were a force to be reckoned with. And I think since that time, of course, we've seen many of the major banks have established significant loan programs for women entrepreneurs, banks like Bank of America and Wells Fargo and others. So they've made it much easier for women to access capital. It's still not easy, and we all know that, and certainly access to capital is still a very major concern for a lot of women entrepreneurs, but it is far easier than it was a decade ago. So that's one thing that certainly has changed. And then I think, as you know, Elaine, just technology and access to technology has made a tremendous difference. We all know that it allows even the smallest business to look like a big business if you know what you're doing. So if you've got a great website, if you're using all the technology tools that are out there, you can run a small business and then scale that business to a larger business and compete with some of the bigger players in ways that you certainly couldn't have done a decade ago.
That is so true. Well, I want to have us move on to the second category. Whoops. It would help if I pushed the right button. Let's talk about relationships, because one of the things that you're really, really gifted at, Monica, is helping build relationships between powerful women entrepreneurs. And what are some of the things that you're doing through your magazine that really helps people engage and connect and collaborate? What are your favorite methods to inspire that?
Well, we really take the time to get to know the women who are engaged in our community. And, you know, even though it's a very large community, we have spent considerable time really building out our networks. And I think every woman in her community, whatever space she's in, needs to find a way to do that, certainly in her own industry and certainly within the women's business community. So we really work hard to leverage all of those relationships. We, for example, through our Enterprising Women Advisory Board, have the presidents or executive directors of all the major organizations that support the growth of women's entrepreneurship represented on that advisory board. And we really stay in touch with each of those organizations. We attend their annual meetings. We are in touch with all of their communications, their newsletters and publications. So we really feel like we can bring those connections together for our readers. We can bridge the various organizations, and for women who aren't involved in all of them or certainly can't be involved in all of them, they can feel like they're getting the very best information from each of those groups because of our participation with each of those organizations. And, you know, we try to share that and communicate that through all of the communication vehicles that we have, of course, through the print magazine, through the connector, through our personal involvement in all the events that we do. And, you know, we just work hard at being relationship builders and being connectors. When we see women who reach out to us and need information on the next stage of growth for their business, whether it's, you know, perhaps they're getting ready to exit their business and they're looking for the best way to do that, we take time to make those kind of connections for them, not only providing them with the information that they need through in the publication, but personally making a lot of those connections as well, anytime that we can.
You know, I want to reframe a little bit of what you just said, Monica, because I think it was so incredibly powerful and something that every single person can do. I heard you say your very first and most important skill is to listen. You're really good at connecting with all of the different constituents and listening to what they're up to, listening to where they're going, paying attention to their social media profiles, subscribing to their newsletters, going to their annual meetings to really understand what are their priorities, what are their challenges. And then after listening, you lift. You help identify things that are going to lift them up and empower them to accomplish what they really are trying to get done.
Absolutely. And you know, even though the magazine has always been a for-profit company, we've had such a strong social enterprise mission from day one with Enterprising Women, and I think everyone in our community knows that. When the magazine was started 15 years ago, Elaine, I pretty much said anybody who is doing anything positive to promote women entrepreneurs or the growth of women's entrepreneurship will have a voice in this publication, and they'll have an open door. And I think that has been tremendously helpful to us to just say absolutely, to pretty much to always say yes. When we're asked to do something, we always find a way somehow or another to give that person a voice and to, you know, to communicate that message.
And I know that we've got a question. Elaine is asking, technology and access to technology has made a tremendous difference. It allows even the smallest business to look like a big business if you know what you're doing. I'm sorry, Elaine Niederberg, thank you for reminding us what Monica just said, because it was a really important differentiator. And one of the things that I love about Hangouts is that you can do Hangouts around the world. There are people all around the world who have access to the internet who can do a hangout with you, and how incredible that you can collaborate with people at this level. So one of my favorite tools, obviously, is Hangouts. One of my other favorite tools is social media, and I love Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a really important tool that I use on a regular basis to stay up with all of the different posts that I need to keep on top of. And it's just absolutely my favorite tool.
You know, talking about technology, Elaine, our technology is always, well, particularly on Google, it's always in beta. And I think one of the really important skills to develop is to learn how to use the technology to your benefit, but don't let it get the best of you, because it will fight you at every turn. And I think what I admire about some of the best interviewers who are using this technology is their ability to recover and their ability to not sweat it out.
There's no point, truly. Truly. The technology is just the technology, and that changes all the time. There was a time before telephones. There was a time before mobile phones. There's a time before the internet. There's a time before texting. You know, it's called face-to-face conversation. We used to do that a lot more than we do it now, and one of the things that I love about Hangouts is that I can, in effect, have a face-to-face conversation with somebody and really read their body language, get where they're coming from, because so much of our communication is not just the words we use. It's the body language, it's the intonation, it's the pacing, and all of those things really matter. So whenever you can use a technology like Google Hangouts that incorporates multiple modalities, the vision, auditory, and kinesthetic, because you can use your mouse to interact and to ask questions, it tends to create a much more enriching experience, and you get more information through that connection. Now, while we're waiting for Monica to rejoin us, I just wanted to share a little bit about the structure of this show and what it is I'm doing in interviewing all of these experts. Because with Why 5% Succeed, I'm talking about the 4 different ways you create a return on investment for your clients. And a lot of people don't think about their business this way, but when you do, and you're able to articulate the value that you provide, you're much more powerful and compelling to your clients. So I really want to arm you with a language that makes you more effective and more valuable. The first thing, of course, is the incredibly rewarding experience. And after the rewarding experience comes a relationship, because frankly, all a relationship is a series of rewarding experiences. That's why somebody wants to have a relationship with you. After the relationship is reputation. The ironic thing about a reputation is that you don't own your reputation. Your relationships own your reputation. Your relationships tell the rest of the world who you are being for them. So you need to arm them and make it easy for them to promote you and share you with their networks. And when those 3 things are in place, your rewarding experience, your relationships, and your reputation, that's when the revenue comes pouring in. It's unavoidable. It's a side effect of the other 3 results that you're after. Monica, I was just trying to ask you a question, because you were talking about listening and lifting your contacts. And I was just saying, you know, you've got over 1 million women who are involved with your magazine. That's going to be a little hard to manage. Is there a favorite piece of software or technology or tool that you use that makes it easier to listen and interact with all these people?
You know, the best way for us to engage has really been through the connector. That has actually worked the best for us. But of course, our Facebook page is a very lively place to do that as well. And I remember back a few months ago, I was actually having breakfast and was looking at the Enterprising Women Facebook page, and we had a message from a woman in a village in India, I kid you not, who said, you know, I just found you and I'm looking for a way to connect with some other women. Can you help me? And I thought, this is such marvelous technology. This woman is on the other side of the world, and I'm sitting here having a cup of tea, reading about her. And of course, we have a strong connection with We Connect International. We Bank, of course, most people know the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, major certifying organization for women entrepreneurs, and they have an international version called We Connect International. And We Connect has a very strong presence in India. So it, took about a minute to make that connection with the folks at We Connect International, and they were able to engage with this woman very quickly. So I thought, it's just when it works, when we are able to use social media and technology to bring people together, even from the far corners of the world, I find it to be so rewarding.
That's
Elaine,
great. So Facebook is one of your favorite tools. I love that. Is
Absolutely.
there another tool that's a really must-have for you?
Well, you're the technology guru. I can see that. And I probably wouldn't have gone dark a minute ago if I had your technology skills, but the rest of us are doing the best we can, Elaine. So the one thing I did forget to tell you earlier, and I'd love to have a minute to talk about the Enterprising Women Foundation. We haven't done that yet. So let me just share a little bit of background. 3 years ago, we had been approached by several of the members of our advisory board to consider setting up a nonprofit foundation that could do some work around advancing women's entrepreneurship in the U.S. and around the globe. So we filed for the 501c3. Anyone who knows that knows it's not an easy thing to do. We waited the better part of a year to get that process through, but we were thrilled when it did. And one of the first projects that we decided to work on, starting out primarily in the U.S., but we certainly see this as something that could grow to other countries, was a mentorship program where we would connect outstanding women entrepreneurs in a local community with outstanding high school girls who were interested in pursuing entrepreneurship. We also wanted to bring in the STEM connection, and I'm sure your listeners know about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. There's so much research around the fact that in the next decade, and certainly the next 20 years, so many of the jobs that are out there are going to be in the STEM fields. And there just aren't enough young women going into those fields. Now, the connection that we bring to this as well is bringing in the entrepreneurship piece. We know that there are many women who have started businesses in the STEM fields. However, we also know that many more women should be running businesses in those areas. So we thought if we could connect through our mentorship events outstanding women entrepreneurs who are leading STEM-based businesses with high school girls who could be inspired by those young women, by those business owners, to see that those women have blazed a trail, they have reached a level of success in a business that was once considered to be a non-traditional business, but is something where there are just outstanding opportunities today. It would really be a great opportunity for us to fulfill our mission of inspiring the next generation of women entrepreneurs. So that's exactly what we're doing, Elaine. Our plan is in 2015. We hope to do about 20 of these events around the country. We're planning them in Chicago, Atlanta, New York, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, a number of other cities. And that is something that if the women entrepreneurs who are listening to this are interested in bringing that type of an event to their community, they can reach out to me through the Enterprising Women website and let us know that, and we're happy to take a look at that. What we hope to do, and this is also in partnership with the Million Women Mentors Initiative, is to be a part of really making a tremendous difference in inspiring that next generation of women entrepreneurs to look at entrepreneurship and specifically to look at those STEM fields that are so important.
You're absolutely right. And there's nothing like being able to collaborate with other people. It makes a huge difference when you realize the options that are open to you. And often, I think younger girls aren't thinking about the STEM area as a potentially entrepreneurial pathway. And yet, one of the big trends that we're noticing with the Fortune 50 companies is they really want to see smaller entrepreneurial organizations go out there, create proof of concept, build something, and then they buy that business, or they buy into that business, they invest in that business. So you can really see huge potential and realize your own dream if you're willing to go in a more entrepreneurial way.
Absolutely, and so many of these girls don't have mentors in their lives. That's the other issue. So we're really making an effort to reach out. There are some groups such as the National Girls Collaborative Project. They're a coalition of representing about 7 million girls with organizations like the Girl Scouts, Girls Inc., 4-H, and others. And then there's a group called the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, and we're very proud last year at the Enterprising Women of the Year event to give the Enterprising Women Advocacy Award to Gail Yeagle, who founded YAY, Young Entrepreneurs Academy. And they're now teaching an 8-week program to girls and boys between the ages of 11 and 18, teaching them how to come up with a national competition so that the winners at the national level actually get their businesses funded.
You have such big vision. You really do, and I so admire you for that. I want to take a minute now to move on to the next stage that I was talking about just as you came back on the show. It's about reputation. And again, this isn't something that you necessarily own. Yes, you have the brand, Enterprising Women. A lot of people know Monica Smiley is a leader in entrepreneurial women's issues and women business issues. But reputation is really something that is controlled by your audience, by your readers. So what are some of the things that you're doing to make it easy for people to refer you on, to share the magazine with other people? How are you inspiring and rewarding people for engaging and promoting what you're up to?
Well, it's very easy through our digital publication and through the way the connector is set up for them to share information. So on the digital publication, for example, it's easy to send an article that you like to a friend. Very simple to do that. On the connector as well online, it's easy to make a comment and to bring in the community there. So we see women using those tools, which is terrific. And then, of course, good old-fashioned email. You probably hate to hear this, Elaine, but, my inbox is full every day, literally, with hundreds of emails. So we struggle, actually, to keep up with it. But we think it's very important to answer as many of our readers' inquiries personally and to make sure that they feel like they can connect with us.
So I'm going to go out on a limb here, because one of the key ways to help your reputation is to showcase your audience, showcase their success, especially how they've been leveraging working with you. So as your readers are reading the articles and applying what they learned in the articles, you're acknowledging their growth and their progress publicly. That's really huge. Do you have any examples, or how are you maybe doing that with your readers, Monica?
Well, we're showcasing so many of them through the publication itself. Spotlights and profiles, every issue is just crammed with information. And I love some of the tools that you're helping us introduce to Elaine, and I think there's so much more that we can be doing. I'm excited about tapping in, particularly to a hangout like this, and to other ways that we can do that. But I think primarily, Elaine, we're doing it through the magazine and through the connector itself at this point.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the fourth way that you create value for your clients, and that is revenue. And I define it a little differently than most people do. I have 3 different ways that you create revenue for your clients. The first one is how you help your clients make more money. Monica, what are you doing? How are the people involved with Enterprising Women making more money?
Well, I think first of all, Elaine, we're saving them time. We all know time is money, and by pulling together the best information from the best minds that are out there around women's entrepreneurship and showcasing the women who are running the best businesses and having them offer their best tips, we're able to save them tons of time because they've got one place that they can go, that they can access those great ideas and put them to work in their businesses. So I think that's probably the #1 way. And for those women who are taking advantage of that information, we see some great results. We also feel like supporting the organizations that are out there that do a great job of working with these women individually as well makes a huge difference. We really feel like only a small percentage of the women entrepreneurs in the world know about and engage directly with these organizations. If you think about, 7 million women entrepreneurs out there who own, majority-owned women-owned businesses, and maybe 10 million who own 50-50, in a business.
Mm-hmm.
And then we add up the memberships of all of the organizations that exist. It's a tiny percentage of that women's business community that's out there. So anything that we can do to encourage them to connect and engage with groups like Women Impacting Public Policy, with the Women Presidents Organization, with the National Association of Women Business Owners, and a number of others, can make a huge difference, because that can give them a peer advisory group on the local level, someplace where they can really engage and learn from other business owners as well. We really think we're all in this together, and every possible tool that's out there, they ought to be using, and certainly those organizations are a very important tool. And I personally belong to all of them and stay as engaged as I can with them because I know how important it is.
Monica, you really did a great job of defining not only how you help your readers make more money, because what you're doing is you're helping them identify local support groups, and that accountability factor, that peer factor, is really huge. It's been scientifically proven you are biologically inclined to mimic those that you're spending time with physically, face to face. So if you want to become a better tennis player, you play with somebody who's a little bit better than you are. Your mirror neurons in your brain will automatically get your body to mimic their body. So when you hang out with other powerful women entrepreneurs and you get that insight into their favorite tips, tools, tactics, and techniques, that's why we do this show. Getting information can save you time, save you a lot of money, and help you make money. Because maybe you didn't know that Hangouts are a great way to connect with people around the world. Maybe you didn't realize that they're automatically recorded to YouTube. So you can turn those into additional products. And guess what? Those additional products make you more money. So you answered both, how do you help make more money and how do you help save more money? You also kind of answered how you help make people feel like $1 million bucks. But I want you to talk a little bit more about that one.
Well, I think that women don't have the spotlight on them enough. We all know that, right? And that was one of the issues that has arisen, I think, in the last few years. There's been a lot of research around this, is women lacking need to take a really hard look at. I had Hugh McCall, who was the CEO of Bank of America, interviewed him for an article. He said, Monica, we've seen 2 people walk into a Bank of America to get a bank loan, a man and a woman, true story, very similar businesses. The woman was just as capable. The paperwork she brought in looked just as good, and she should have gotten that loan. However, the man walked in feeling like he owned it. He thought that he had that loan in the bag, and he deserved it, and he was going to get it. The woman walked in making some excuses, maybe not having quite as much confidence in herself and in that business. She had every right to be confident about it. It was, it was there on paper. But she didn't. She walked away without that loan. And, I'm certainly not blaming the lack of women getting loans totally on self-confidence, but I just think that it absolutely is an issue that many women entrepreneurs struggle with. And we know it's an issue for young women as well. And one of the reasons behind the mentorship initiative is to be able to put the spotlight on those young women and be one of the first people to say, wow, we think you're fabulous. We think you're a leader. We think you're going places. And we all know that we need to hear those things. We need to believe in ourselves. And that translates, certainly for those young women, every bit as much for current women entrepreneurs who really need to be doing more to show that they've got that self-confidence and that they believe in themselves and their businesses. we hear a lot of times that women don't want to apply for the Enterprising Women of the Year award because they don't think that they deserve it, or they don't think that they've done enough, or let me just wait another 5 years until I've done XYZ, or until I've hit the next level of revenue, or whatever the excuse is. We say, put yourself out there. You've probably done some amazing things. You deserve to have recognition. And this event is all about shining the spotlight on you, letting people see how fabulous you are, and then getting some great PR and marketing out of having that exposure and having that recognition. So I just think that's very important.
You have spoken such true words. I couldn't have asked for a better example of why it's so important to make people feel like $1 million. And so many people discount that, but how you feel shows up in everything you do, and emotions are contagious. So when you walk in the room and you own it, and you're confident and you're poised and you're just excited to be there, that energy is really compelling, and you get a lot more results in your business. Monica, it's down to the very last question. It's probably the hardest question of all. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wish I had that you'd like to say?
Well, I just think in a nutshell, for the women who are seeing this, if you are not connected to the women's business community, you need to be connected. And you need to look around you and see that there is so much there that can support you and can help you grow your business. And you need to take advantage of it. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for you to do that, but you need to engage. And if you do, I can almost guarantee you that you will see some phenomenal growth with your business. So I encourage everyone to do that, to take that step and do that.
That's great. Monica, thank you so much for being our guest today on today's show. You really have given us some wonderful insight. The whole idea of listen and then lift your audience. That was really powerful. I loved what you were saying there and how important Facebook is to you. It's a great tool for you to pay attention to what's going on and really put your ear to the ground. And then all of the things that you're doing to make a difference with the different audiences and with the kids. Elaine Needleberg is saying, listen and lift. This is a gem. What we need to do in our collaborative, connecting relationships. And you're absolutely right, Elaine. Thank you for reinforcing that message. Well, I just want to say, if you haven't picked up a copy of Why 5% Succeed, I swear I'm going to get it on the camera sooner or later. You can go to Amazon.com and pick up a copy. There's more great information there. And of course, join us next week, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. You'll get to hear from another fabulous guest like Monica. Monica, thank you so much for your time today. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.